Hello. I am going to show you what I am doing. I am basically scribing. So this here is a dead plant. Dead meaning that it actually has no life. It doesn't have root. It's just a tree bark that we had trimmed one of our tree, and what I'm doing is I am going to plant my orchid on it. And so what I'm doing is I am cutting the bark away, and I'm gonna wrap my orchid around it. So I'm gonna let the orchid grow around the tree stump, the dead tree stump. Here is a gallon pot with stones sitting on the top to stabilize the stump for me to use. And I am going to trim. So this is the part where I'm going to actually graft my orchid in. So what we're seeing here is this orchid that have air root, and I just took it out of the original orchid plant that I have. So it's like a cutting. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to wrap the moss around the bark and just wrap it around multiple times. So what I have here is moss that I'm soaking it into water. And once I soak it into water, what's gonna do is that it's going to actually help retain the moisture for me. So I'm gonna let it soak for like half an hour or 15 minutes, and I'll be right back. Okay, so a great way to do it is to have like an orchid mesh, but I don't have orchid mesh. So I'm just gonna use a string, and basically I'm just gonna wrap the orchid with the string multiple times to keep the moss in its place. And when you water the orchid, you want to water the orchid in a way where you keep the moss wet. So you can use a spray bottle to water the orchid. You just wrap it around tightly. Now all you have to do is just keep on going. And there you go. So at the bottom, what I have here is some rootings of some flowers. This is orange. I have some rootings of white little daisy looking like flower that I'm just gonna grow at the bottom, and up here there will be orchid. So I'm gonna continue the process, and I'm gonna wrap the entire tree stump with more orchids, and stay tuned for the results. Alright, so I have a situation where my orchid was growing too tall and it broke in half. So what I'm doing is that here's the cutting of the orchid. I am going to squish it in to this aloe vera leaf right here, and the top part is also cut. So I'm gonna also put aloe vera to the top of this orchid. I've actually made a cut here through the bark of this plant. This is the bark of the dead tree that I just trimmed. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get moss, and I'm just gonna wrap moss. So basically I used the aloe vera as an envelope, and I stuck the orchid bark in. I rub it at the top, rub it at the bottom, and I'm gonna use orchid moss, and I'm gonna just wrap it around. So because it's actually a cutting and it's like injured, I wanted to make sure that I secured it, secure it tightly, so that way it takes roots. So you just want to wrap it over and over and over and over, and you want to make sure that when you water it, you keep the moss moist, so that way it takes root. So as I'm wrapping, I am also checking to make sure that all the moss is secured, because that's what helps the orchid to take roots. Make a hoop and tie it in tightly. Make another hoop and tie it in tightly. Generally, what I like to do is I like to make sure that it's secured, but I can't seem to find the other string that I had tied earlier. So I'm just gonna go in here and just secure it with the knot. So that looks good. Now I have here is some rootings that I did by wrapping a paper towel in orchid moss and keep it wet. And as you can see, it has roots. There's the root here, there's the root here. I am going to bind all this root. First, I'm gonna untie the green tie, and I'm going to open up and show you. There's the root, and look how beautifully it rooted. So I'm going to actually plant this to the top. So I'm gonna open the bark again, and I'm gonna tie the orchid to the top of this branch here. So I'm gonna turn off the camera and move it a little bit. Okay, so I'm scraping upward away from my hand because I don't want to get injured. So you want to scrape it. This is where I'm going to put my orchid. So you're gonna scrape it all up here and make sure that you don't get injured in the way. So the bark, it's removed, and I have my orchid that rooted perfectly. Here's air root, and here's the green roots. What I'm gonna do is naturally I'm gonna tie my orchid. I'm gonna tie in all the root here, and then I'm gonna tie some moss up here too as well to secure it. Now these orchid has red colorish red color flowers. Here is my a piece of aloe vera, and aloe vera serve as a natural healing antigen or rooting hormone naturally. So I'm just gonna stick it in here like so, and I'm gonna apply the moss. So I am going, prior to, I just use moss without a paper towel, but you can use moss with a paper towel and just wrap it around. Over time, the paper towel will disintegrate, so either way works. Because I already used the paper towel previously, I'm just gonna keep it and continue to use the paper towel. And this green piece of tie here that I previously used, I'm just gonna continue to use it because I don't want anything to go into the wasteland. So now I'm basically applying an extra layer of moss. And I'm just wrapping it tightly around the tree bark. Just keep on wrapping until you have the right firmness, the right thickness. And I'm continue to apply pressure and just continue to wrap the moss around the orchid. And eventually you can tie it. You can tie it in tightly. To make sure that everything holds in nicely. And there you have it. I'm going to place this in a very in an area where there's low light or little light, because they are cutting and I want to make sure that they are gonna grow, because at the end of the day it's gonna be a waste of my time and work if they don't grow. Alright, so good luck with your orchid process, and hopefully you find this helpful. Next time when you throw away a cutting or any branches, make sure that you save the good looking one for the process of orchid growing, because at the end of the day your orchid loves to climb on these beautiful branches that you may have cut off your tree stump. Thanks for watching. See you later.